Right, so ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've enjoyed the show today. I hope this last session of the day will be valuable and worthwhile. What I'll do is I will introduce who we are, a little bit about our company, and then we're going to give you what we see as trends in the industry right now, and give you a flavor of what our customers are asking for and why they're asking for it. The subject matter is about 5G and Edge AI and how it's transforming industries. So yeah, it's probably Jay and I, it's us, and then you get to enjoy a nice cold drink or have a journey home. So just bear with me, it's not going to take too long, all right? 40 minutes. So, you know, who are we? Thundercomm is actually a subsidiary that is 50% owned by Qualcomm and 50% owned by ThunderSoft. So you've probably all heard of Qualcomm. You know, they have IP around connectivity. They really are building the key components of smartphones. So, you know, I probably don't need to introduce Qualcomm. ThunderSoft, you may well have not heard of. ThunderSoft are a Chinese software company HQ'd in Beijing, and ThunderSoft were really pioneers in the smartphone space. So when Android and iOS was first being developed, ThunderSoft were working to develop that software. And in the late 90s, they really built the building blocks of what we have today for smartphone software. So they collected know-how, capabilities, and IP around smartphone software. They then took that ability and moved into the automotive business. So ThunderSoft will provide a lot of the embedded software that goes into things like head-up displays in cars. ThunderSoft then focused on the IoT business. So we're going to give you a few examples of how ThunderSoft will help and complement Qualcomm silicon in the IoT markets. Thundercomm is HQ'd in San Diego. ThunderSoft, as I said, is HQ'd in Beijing. So I work for ThunderSoft, and Jay, you work for Thundercomm. Yeah. So I just wanted to give that background. Now, who are we? So my name is John Wilkins. I've worked for this company for 2.5 months. If you'd have told me 2.5 months ago that I'd be stood on a stage in London at a trade show talking about Edge AI, I would not have believed you. But life is wonderful. I worked for Intel for 23 years. And, you know, Jay put his career on there. He had so many logos. I only had Intel, so I decided to put the 3 corporate rebandings that I lived through. If you've worked for the same company through 3 corporate rebandings, you know it's time to move on. But look, I'm 23 years in tech. I'm based in Cheltenham in the UK, and I'm responsible for our Edge AI business and cloud across Europe. Jay, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Jay. Actually, my full name is Jayathu Siriwardena. There are many more names in the middle of that. I don't want to bore you with all that. You can simply call me Jay. So I look after Thundercomm sales and business development effort in UK and Ireland, as well as Northern Europe, because we have a small team in Europe, so we have a big region to cover. I'm originally from Sri Lanka, born and raised, and moved to UK a couple of years ago. Before joining Thundercomm, I worked for a major telco in Asia, the Asiata Group, who have more than 6 subsidiaries across 6 different countries in the Asia-Pacific region. I started as an engineer into set-top boxes and consumer premises equipment. Then I moved into product management, then finally into business and sales development. So before Thundercomm, I was working for another Chinese ODM called SDMC. So they manufacture set-top boxes and broadband equipment, and I joined Thundercomm about now almost a year now, last October. So, so it's been a good journey. So I hope John will also enjoy the time at ThunderSoft. Yeah.
So sometimes it's good to actually look at the context of where we're at and where we've come from. So in our view, we like this slide because there's a kind of guide that major technology shifts roughly every 10 years. Now, we've got some varying ages in this room, and I will not embarrass people by asking the age, but I will tell you that when I started my career, I pretty much started working for Intel around the web stage, and it was 1999. Unfortunately, I missed the PC boom. I wish I'd have started 10 years earlier because I'd have made lots of money on shares. I could spot my colleagues at Intel that were there during that boom because by the car they were driving and parked in the car park. It was that first stage was a great time for Intel. But hey ho, I started in '99. It was the start of the World Wide Web. Then you had the .com crash, and it was very interesting watching the bubble of investment and excitement and then the correction that came straight after. And, you know, there were firms that survived and there were firms that died. It was quite brutal. But out of that, you then had rise of what we'd call the mobile stage. So, you know, I remember working at Intel when the iPhone launched in 2007. You know, I remember having a MySpace page. I remember then having a Facebook page. And you had this trend of data and social media coming onto our personal devices. Through that time, technology changed. You know, the PC, it kind of morphed into a laptop. So, you know, this overall trend of mobility really took off. From the mobile stage, you know, we've probably been in the stage of AI, arguably for what, maybe 5 years, maybe? We're halfway through that stage. AI has historically been done in a data center. You know, you've had edge devices that collect the data. That data is sent to either an on-premise data center or a cloud data center, and it's interpreted, it's processed, and the recommendations that come from that are then sent back to the edge. It's almost like the period before the PC, which was the mainframe period. All right, now, life can sometimes repeat itself, but you know, if you think about it, you had all the processing done in a mainframe, and then the PC turned up in people's homes. For AI, a lot of this stuff happens centrally. Does it make sense? What we're going to talk about now is the type of technology trends and enhancements that are happening right now that's going to drive the next period of technology. What is it? Is it edge? Maybe. You know, what's coming in the future? So, Jay, would you like to chat about technology now and capabilities and how it's changing?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, John. So as John said, we are seeing the same cycle being repeated again, like from mainframes, how computing came into your mobile devices. Now, even today, the mobile devices are not working by themselves, right? They need to always collaborate with the cloud, but most of the processing happens on the consumer device. So we are seeing a similar trend for AI as well, which we think is how the future will be, where the edge devices will become more and more powerful in terms of handling AI, but it will always have the backup of the cloud for complex processing and algorithms. So we'll be seeing a hybrid version of the cloud and the edge devices working together. But then the transition is still happening, so edge AI is becoming more and more, you know, powerful, and then becoming more and more commonplace now, like what happened with the mobile phones and the consumer electronic devices that you saw. So when you talk about the industries, there are several drivers of innovation, basically. We call them key requirements for the industry. We are in the industry, some say the industry 4.0, now we are going into industry 5.0. So there are a few requirements that have come up in the industries, because if you take the traditional factories and stuff, they were mostly about getting the manufacturing part or whatever done right, but now they are talking about much more than just simply the manufacturing efficiency. They want to have features like surveillance. They want to have visibility about what's going on in the factories, like who is coming in, what's happening on the factory floor, Are people wearing the necessary PPE? What are the people doing? Is the security person at his security post, or has he left somewhere? So that sort of surveillance requirements have come in. Secondly, we need reliable and low latency wireless connection. This is where mainly 5G comes in. So when 5G came in, most people thought, wow, fast internet, fast video streaming, it's going to be even faster than 4G. But that's not where 5G's strength is. 5G's strength is in enabling the industries to become smarter and more efficient through these sort of reliable and low latency wireless connection. Also, thirdly, dynamic reconfigurability. Because if you take the past, the factory floor, the equipment was stationary, right? The equipment was stationary, goods move through the factory. You were not able to move the equipment around that easily or do any configurations in your production line. But people need that now. You need to be able to reconfigure your factory floor in a dynamic manner. And you need visibility, of course, real-time visibility. You need to be knowing where your things are, where is your packaging, where is your finished good, how much raw material is there. You need to have visibility about what's going on real time. Then guided execution. This is something like VR and AR, what's being enabled by them. For example, you don't need to send an expert all the time to fix something on the factory floor. A technician can go, he can be wearing a VR glass, and that VR glass would be able to communicate with the expert sitting in his home, maybe far away in some other country, and that expert would be able to see what's going on in the factory floor through the eyes of the technician, and he should be able to troubleshoot and tell the technician, okay, this is the problem, this is what you need to do, without having to travel to the factory floor itself. So that's a very important requirement these days. Predictive maintenance, of course, for the machines. So as the machines become smarter, they are able to send the information about their status, how they are behaving, are they getting overloaded, are they able to keep running at the same speed, so that the maintenance guys can plan predictive maintenance based on that input. And all of this needs to happen in a private network also. You don't need your internal information going out into the internet or going out into other cloud services. You don't need that happening. You need to be able to control all of that within your own manufacturing environment. So these are the key requirements of the industrial age today. So in terms of enablers, we have identified 3 enablers that will help achieve these requirements. First one is heterogeneous computing. I'll come to that in the next slide. And on-device AI plus 5G. So we'll be mostly covering on-device AI and 5G today, and let's focus on heterogeneous computing. Just to touch on heterogeneous computing, so what is it? It's about having a dedicated processor or a computer to handle a dedicated task. So if you take general purpose computers, where the specialization was not assigned to a specific, let's say, piece of silicon or piece of hardware. They were handled in general by general processor. But what Qualcomm believes is we should have specialized dedicated hardware to handle specialized processor. For example, the CPU can handle sequential control. The GPU can handle streaming. The DSP can handle low power and real-time data. So etc. like that. You need to have dedicated hardware and dedicated silicon to handle specialized parts of processing. So second one important is on-device AI, as we touched before as well. So as the device becomes smarter, you are able to handle more and more on the edge, because right now most of the AI is on the cloud, but that does not work for all the situations, because there are challenges when you are handling big workloads. First one is quite compute intensive, and you need to handle large complicated data. The concurrencies can be complex, so there are several challenges when you handle AI processing in the cloud, especially in the industrial situation where you need to, sometimes the connectivity between the cloud and the factories cannot be guaranteed. The factories can be in remote locations where there is not good stable internet connectivity, so you can't rely on the cloud, you can't rely on the connectivity, so you need to have more and more processing power happening on the edge. John, next.
Yeah, so if you look at the capabilities of edge devices, they are increasing at low power. So you've got capability increasing, the power dropping. Now, it's kind of interesting. There's a real buzz at the moment around edge. You know, we kind of had a big buzz around IoT, big buzz around cloud. People are really interested now as to what's happening at the edge. I've even heard edge is the new cloud, which I think is actually quite misleading, because edge is a really important area of the cloud. And I think the edge is linked to the cloud. And companies are currently really focusing and trying to work out what can they do on the edge that is cost effective, secure, and in the last 10 years, there's been a real rush to put as many workloads in the cloud as possible. And, you know, why has that happened? Well, people have shifted from capital expenditure to operational expenditure. It's made sense. But when you look at some of these applications, if you put things in the cloud, you're collecting data, you're moving that data to the cloud, you're bringing it back again, you need a lot of network bandwidth, then there's a lot of cost attached to it, and you lose latency. It doesn't make sense. Now, an IDC forecast estimates that there will be 41.6 billion connected IoT devices generating 79.4 zettabytes of data in 2025. The cloud was not built to handle that. It no longer makes sense. So I think companies, they're trying to work out what workloads and what applications would it make more sense to handle them at the edge. And you know, this is a real focus for companies right now. Now, what we hear from our customers is these reasons on the right are what's driving them to create projects and review our technology and to work with us. They're not doing it for no reason. They're doing it for business reasons. Number one, can I reduce my operational costs? Are there activities in my business where I need to reduce latency? Time is critical. Can I increase the quality of our data security? If transactions are handled at the edge, on an edge device, data is stored at the edge, that data is not being moved around multiple devices, multiple networks, and thus the threat of security risk is reduced. How can I get better, more responsive and robust performance to drive better business decisions? How can I scale? In some cases, you cannot trust the network. We have a customer in South Africa. One of the reasons they're taking our edge device technology is it's an intermittent network. They have billboards and they're managing the billboards. The network drops. They still want the billboard to be displaying A, the advertising, and B, they still want to be able to remotely interact with that billboard. And essentially, people are trying to monetize data. All right, so if you've got edge devices and sensors and cameras, if it's generating data, they're looking for a way of interpreting that data, analyzing it, and creating decisions, alerts, and recommendations that can help them better interact with their customers or offer a safer working environment for their staff.
Yeah. So the other one is 5G. So what happened was usually the telcos were running the data game, right? So in the LTE and also even before, they were trying to monetize data as much as possible. So they were laying the networks, fiber, whatever, and then they had huge pipes, and there were no way to monetize that pipe. So they looked at different things like video and things like that, where you as a way to monetize that already existing infrastructure. So when 5G also came along, as John said, so with the AI being done on the edge and also 5G coming enabling that, then there should be a way to monetize the 5G with all those data that is going back and forth to the cloud. So the telcos have understood this problem now. So now we have seen most of the telcos are now investing in aggregated solutions where they provide 5G plus edge AI devices together to the industry, so they can secure that customer's business plus the data capacity, as well as they can sell edge AI devices to the industry by themselves rather than let the customer go and buy edge devices from somewhere else, so they can monetize both the edge as well as the 5G. So why is 5G so important? First one is, as I said, it's not about just mobile broadband. You need 5G for mission critical services, like in the industry is to drive autonomous vehicles, to fly drones, for handling fires, communication between like say the health services and police. So such mission critical services, you need low latency and high bandwidth connectivity. And of course you can get enhanced mobile broadband as well, so that's a value addition. If you are an end consumer, you can obviously watch better videos in better quality and with less streaming and less buffering. Plus you need to support the massive number of Internet of Things that are being connected to the internet. So without 5G, none of this would have been possible. I don't think 4G would have been able to handle this sort of demand that's coming from all these devices that are being connected. So the edge AI, IoT, smart industries and 5G all go hand in hand, so one cannot survive without the other. So we believe the 5G and edge AI are the two most important enablers. So how does 5G take industry to the next level? So you can create single networks across 5G industry. You don't need to share the bandwidth, you don't need to rely on the common pipeline. You can have your own private network through 5G that's dedicated to you, and all the devices can be in that single 5G network. I mean, I'm saying devices, I'm talking about the devices in the factory. They can be in one single network, and that's mainly private to you. Plus you can scale it the way you like. You can add more routers, you can add more capacity easily, you can add more devices, support for more devices, and that capacity is quite reliable. It's unlike 4G, where it can sometimes be a little bit iffy when you talk about, of course you can't compare with Ethernet or fiber, but then when you talk about wireless connectivity, 5G can be reliable than what 4G was able to offer. Third one is also important, what is called 5G supports wireless Ethernet. Especially in a factory environment, in the earlier days when you connected devices through Ethernet, for example like a machine or maybe a vehicle that will pick up the stuff, or robots, you had to connect them through Ethernet. The wireless option was not that useful. But imagine if you want to change the location of a device and you had to change the Ethernet cabling all over again. You have to find ways to lay the cable, you have to find ways to modify the existing network. So it was cumbersome, it was not easy to do. But with 5G, with the support of wireless Ethernet, you can simply move the equipment to another location and it will quickly build up the network without having the requirement to redraw the cables or do any other modifications. And you can do on-device processing, basically what Edge AI is doing. You can have sensors and things that are sitting on the devices and that can connect it via 5G. It can support computer vision, CV and AI, especially for autonomous machines that are mostly being used in the industries today. As we see the industry becoming more and more advanced, you have these autonomous machines working in the factory rather than humans. And the data privacy is also very important when you're talking about edge devices. How would you protect that data that's been sent to the cloud, if at all? So whatever data that will be sent to the cloud, you need to protect it. So 5G can support that also. Some examples of where 5G has been used to meet industrial IoT requirements. First one is called EUR LLC, Enhanced Ultra Reliable Low Latency Communication. As you can see, this Qualcomm demonstrated this sort of like it's balancing a beam through like autonomous sensing. It can sense the data, whether it's the pole is moving, and then use that feedback again, process it and send it back to the controller, so that the controller can move by itself without letting the beam move. So you can imagine the latency required for such an application. Like you can imagine, let's say you are trying to balance a pole on your hand, right? So the feedback between your eyes and the brain and how it goes to the hand, and so that's quite fast. So the same level of speed can be achieved through 5G and Edge AI, where the computer and the robotic arm is able to balance the pole without letting it fall. Then the COMP, coordinator multipoint, is where you have multiple routers all acting as one single network in the factory flow. So even if there is some, let's say, a line of sight blockage between the for example autonomous vehicle and the 5G router, still there are other routers that are available that are positioned around the flow that can take over without letting that disturbance affect the performance of the machine that's doing a task. Then time-sensitive networking is also part of that wireless Ethernet, where, as you can see in the diagrams, I'm not sure it's clear enough, where you can dynamically configure each of your machines or the vehicles along the factory floor without having to worry about cabling and that sort of Ethernet connectivity. So those are the advantages and how 5G is enabling the Industry 4.0 to go to the next level along with Edge AI.
Yeah, so God, if we start talking about how devices get built, there's obviously hardware involved, there's software involved. We wanted to give an example of what the work that we do with our customers. If you start at the bottom, these are the finished devices. This is what customers are looking to design and bring to market. They're kind of all edge devices. I mean, ultrasound machine, Bluetooth speaker, smartwatch, smart mobile, smart vehicle, edge box. They're all devices that are based on a variant of Qualcomm Snapdragon as the hardware. It will have I/O, connectivity, and once you have the hardware, it's kind of similar from a software perspective. You have an OS, an operating system. You have an IoT bridge, which is basically taking in all the inputs and managing the connected devices. You have an AI engine. So, these devices, they have the ability to watch, to learn. You have the orchestration, media service, if it's playing media. And then you have the varying communication technologies. Now, at ThunderSoft and at Thundercomm, we live and breathe this day in, day out. We help customers build this. These devices have the ability to connect to the cloud. I mean, we've spoken about edge AI, meaning you can do AI on the edge device. But what that device learns and the recommendations it comes up with, that information has to be sent somewhere. We handle the interaction with the cloud or with a customer's on-premise data center. We have software that will allow AI algorithms to be selected and sent to the device and managed remotely. We have an algorithm store where customers can choose from 40 different AI algorithms across face detection, object detection, and they can choose which they apply to which device. And look, these are the industries that our customers are playing in: home, building, manufacturing, retail, traffic, green energy. Why are customers looking to take AI to the edge and take advantage of the opportunities that 5G connectivities bring? These are the value propositions that they're trying to achieve. Lower energy consumption, lower operation costs, increased precision, improved traffic flow. This is the aim of edge AI technology. This is what we're trying to achieve. So we wanted to give an example of a technology that we've created and that is being used across those segments. It's a relatively new concept. We're calling it the Edge AI box. This is a very low power device that can take up to 24 full HD video streams. So if you imagine multiple cameras, it can take in those video streams, and you can load an AI algorithm on, and you can actually do this on the box. You can do it on an indoor, outdoor, industrial smart device, and you can be getting these recommendations and alerts real time. One of our biggest customers in the States is taking this device, and they're using it in a neighborhood watch smart traffic use case. So there are neighborhoods in the States and principalities that are implementing this system. There are cameras which are on poles. They're tracking every car that comes in and out of an area. The smart edge box is then analyzing using ANPR, number plate recognition technology, and it's learning the routines of cars. Okay, so if you're like me, you go to work 8:30 every morning, you come back at 4:30, the AI box just watches that, no issue. If it's a new number plate and it's not been seen before, and it comes into the area more than once in a day, it will trigger an alert of interest. It's also watching the behavior of traffic, and it's able to identify an accident or a pedestrian being hit by a car. These notifications are sent to the emergency services. So that's a real-life customer that we have doing something really innovative. And, you know, before, these CCTV cameras were there, but in order to do that kind of real-time AI, it would have had to send that information to a data center, processed it, and sent it back. Now they're able to do this at the edge. So you can use examples across all of these segments where a device like this can enable you to take existing cameras that are not smart, and all of a sudden you can add a layer of AI and smart technology very, very simply. I'm actually responsible for this product line for Europe, which is why I put the slide in, very selfishly. So, you know, if that's of interest to you, customers or partners, come and speak to me or drop me a line.
I think, John, we have only 9 minutes more, so we'll quickly go through the examples and then take questions for about 5-6 minutes. Yeah.
Sounds good. So, look, we have multiple AI algorithms that are being used by our customers and partners around the world. These are available. We're an ODM at heart. I'm more than happy to sell hardware and software. I will also sell software only. I will sell AI algorithms only. So, look, these are some of the examples that we have. With regards to specific, I think this is probably enough actually. With regards to specific segments, you know, these are the type of algorithms or the type of areas that we have technologies in today. So, look, you know, I guess the edge AI space is really forming at the moment. It's moving fast. People don't know where to start. A good place to start is talk to us, because, you know, the first thing we'll do is we're trying to understand your business problem, what you want the outcome to be. We start at that, and then we work backwards with regards to the layers of technology. So, given the timing, I think we probably call it the end there, and maybe we'll take some questions from the audience, if anyone's brave enough. And by the way, don't ask the guy that's been here 2.5 months a really difficult question, please. The challenge is on.
I don't know whether it's going to be difficult or easy, but what you've described in the the last 2-3 slides actually is nothing new, and I was doing this like 20 years ago. So I'm curious, what is actually the USP? What you sell, what others, and in China there are thousands of companies that can have the same slides. What's different?
What's different? I mean, you know, I guess we are selling bricks to people that build houses. And, you know, what's different? I mean, we are a Qualcomm partner taking Snapdragon to the wider market. You know, there aren't too many people using that technology. There are a few. How many would you say?
2 or 3.
2 or 3.
Yeah. With Qualcomm.
You know, when I worked for Intel, and I have to be careful because they were very good to me for 23 years, but, you know, I was selling the Intel technology in this segment because it was easy for people. It was accessible. It was easy to design. It was open standards. But honestly, was it fit for purpose? It was very high power. It was very high performance. Was it efficient? Probably not. I think, you know, what we offer is a very efficient, low power solution, which in the modern day and age with the climate crisis, why create power you don't need?
Sorry, I think to add to what John is saying, so you have to understand where Qualcomm comes from. Qualcomm comes from the mobile industry, so they are experts in creating chipsets for mobiles. So in the mobile environment, you need high performance at low power usage. So they have brought that into their edge SoCs also. So what you see from our edge AI boxes is you get low power, high performance in a ruggedized box that can be deployed to the field without having to worry about burning your budget or from in terms of power consumption, also having to replace things. Plus we give bundle solutions as well. Our AI algorithms, they are optimized to run on our edge AI boxes, plus the connectivity. Again, Qualcomm, that's another strong point for Qualcomm. The 4G connectivity, the 5G connectivity is quite strong because they again come from that connectivity in the mobile industry. So that's, I think, to add to what John is saying, some other USPs that you can consider in our edge AI boxes.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much. Sorry I came in a bit late, but I just wanted to confirm that you sell hardware and the application itself, and you're happy to sell either the hardware, and you don't sell, do you manage services? Do you, for instance, manage solutions?
Yes, so you probably missed at the start, there's ThunderSoft, a software heritage company based in Beijing, and there's Qualcomm. Thundercomm is a 50-50 subsidiary formed together. So Thundercomm sell hardware, it's branded Thundercomm, but ThunderSoft will sell software, services, design services. Even ThunderSoft actually sell technical support for people that want to take the Qualcomm product and design it into their own product. ThunderSoft actually provide the technical support and kind of back-end support when the product's in the market. So there's a lot of what we do which isn't instantly obvious. But yeah, very much an ODM mentality of we want to help people get to market and shrink time to market effectively. So we're trying to reuse the learnings for getting deployments over the line and in production. We're trying to take that know-how and help people go to market.
So I think, John, if you talk about specific managed services, I think the cloud services are all provided as managed services. For example, the algorithm store, the IoT Harbor is basically a device management system that sits on the cloud that can manage all your edge devices to monitor their health, manage the OTA, I think, managing the software updates. So those come as managed services. Yeah, you can be subscribed, and we can provide it as a subscription-based service rather than just hardware. So if you talk about the hardware, it's about the edge boxes, but everything that sits on top of the edge boxes, the software and the cloud services, can be as a managed service.
You should probably put our contact details up, Jay.
Yeah.
And allow people to...
For example, we have Schneider Electric from France. They are using this solution to detect faults in their production line. When they manufacture a MCB or something, they want to visually inspect if there are any defects on the device. So they use our edge devices coupled with cameras to monitor real time all the devices coming from the production. So you can imagine the speed the units come out of the production line, and this system is capable of monitoring each and every one of them, because if you do manually, then you can only take a sample and check them, but with this one you can check each and every of the devices coming out of production line. So they're using it more than 150 factories in Asia at the moment, so it's already a proven product that's working out there. Any more questions?
Yeah, should we get the contact details up for people to... So we got QR codes here, which I've never actually worked out if they work from a distance. But you've got my LinkedIn, my phone number, Jay's LinkedIn, Jay's phone number. Do they work from a distance? It does. Isn't technology amazing? So look, please connect to us on LinkedIn. Please feel free to reach out to us. If anything that we've spoken about has resonated, if there's any ideas of how we might collaborate or help you in the future, we're a very personable bunch. We enjoy chatting, and we like helping customers, kind of achieve business value. Because at the end of the day, technology is technology. We want to save money or we want to make money, don't we? And that's what it's all about, or enrich the world. So please contact us, and thank you so much for your attention. I'm going to go and grab a beer. If anyone else fancies a drink, please join me.